We can use these requests like we're doing here. Just define some request.get method with some string. But we can also use what's called session object that allows you to persist certain parameters across requests, and it also has some performance increase if you're making several requests to the same host. So the underlying TCP connection will be reused. And this is an example of how we do it. We define a request session object, and from this session we also can call this get method, and we also will have a response. With this session you can sometimes using some kind of authentication if you need, so you can have a user and a password. So there are different types of authentication, and there are many other things you can do with the session. You can use the cookie functions to manipulate session cookies and so on, and you find all this documentation here for requests, readthedocs.io, and here we have all this library reference. So in this example now we are creating a request session, and we're going to use an API from Lyrics.ovh, and this API will return lyrics of certain songs. So the principle is the same what we've used here. We have this base URL here, and at lyrics.ovh.docs.api.io we have here the information about this simple API to retrieve the lyrics of a song. So here we have some description about this simple API. So you can use this get, for example, an artist and a title. So artist is the name of an artist and the title is the title of the song. So in our case we will search for the lyrics of Paradise City, that is a song by Guns N' Roses, and Slash is a member of Guns N' Roses, and so we are passing here this URL, the base plus the artist and the song as is described here in the description of this API. And when we run this with the asGet, we are passing just the URL. These params, they are used for different types of API, not in this case here. We will see an example later. And here we have our response, and the response is the lyrics of Paradise City, and we see here, take me down to the Paradise City where the grass is green and the girls are pretty. So we have the lyric, and we can try different artists with different songs. Now in a different approach, this is somehow a different way how the API works. We have this URL. Now we are going to query for the best match for query string. There are two parameters, the song and the artist. So this is a dictionary, and in our get method we are going to pass a URL and the parameters. So again we need to go to the Songsterr API, and there will be instructions on how to use this API. So Songsterr has an open API. This means that anyone can write their own program to present public Songsterr data in different ways. So the Songsterr API allows you to call methods that respond to REST style XML. So if you're not familiar with REST is the representational state transfer. So it's a software architecture style that was created to guide the design and development of the architecture for the World Wide Web. You can read more about REST here. We are interested in using this Songsterr API. There is an example of a request here. So it's looking for songs with the pattern Marley. So Bob Marley is very famous, No Woman No Cry. So if we would copy this and paste it into the browser, we will have this XML response. And XML is another way how we can have our data structured. So something, let's say, similar to JSON. So XML stands for Extensible Markup Language, and it was also designed to store and transport data, and it was designed to be both human and machine readable. So it's an alternative for JSON as well. And in this case here, we are getting our response as XML, but we can also use our Python library, and we are going to search a song by an artist. So it will be something like this example here, best match for query string. So if you have an artist and a song title and you want to construct an URL to the tab page on Songsterr, we can use this format here. So we want, in our case, it will be Paranoid from Black Sabbath, but it could also be Wonderwall from Oasis, or other Come Together from the Beatles. And we could also add another parameter. So we would like that the instrument to be a bass instead of a guitar. And then we could use here in our example, when we run this is the base URL. We are using best match for query string. These are the parameters. So now we pass the URL and the parameters, and here we have some response. That's kind of a HTML response, and we have here, for example, a link to a guitar tab from Paranoid by Black Sabbath, track bass, distortion guitar, and then you can learn how to play the song here. So let's try another example. Let's see that we want the song Sad But True by Metallica, and are interested in the instrument. We want the bass. So like they're explaining here, add inst equals to bass in the URL parameter, and we should get the bass tablature. So here we have a link. It's a bass tablature, Sad But True, and bass has normally 4 strings, and this is the Sad But True in drop D bass tab, and you can learn how to play this song. So in this last example, now we change here, instead of WA like we used before. For example, here we have this RA here, and we're getting songs by artists. So we, instead of XML, we're going to use JSON, and our artist will be Metallica. So now we have a different base URL. We put the songs, we by artist.json. Our parameters artist is Metallica, and then we use the session get method with the URL and the parameters, and we have a JSON response. And when we do r.json, we have here many different songs by Metallica. So this was a short overview on HTTP requests, especially the get method, some web APIs that are free to use and you don't need an authentication key or any other types of authentication. And it usually works like this. You go to an API page, see the documentation, see how to use it, see how you structure your data to send in the get method, and then you can, after you get, you can process this response and use all the information that you got from the web. That's it for today, and I see you another time.